Design Decals School. Thanks for joining me. Any likes, follows and subscribes are always appreciated, so thank you in advance for those. So over the past month I've been having loads of issues with my Cameo 4 machine. It basically went from being the machine I used the most, and I was only using my Cricut for like little bits and pieces here and there, to becoming the most troublesome thing that I owned. It was just giving me so many different issues. It's finally fixed. It seems to be working properly now without too many issues, touch wood. But through kind of all the problems I've had, I've learned lots of different tips and tricks to figure out what might be the problem and to troubleshoot it. So in this video, I thought I would share those with you, as well as I've now got kind of a checklist that I run through when I put the vinyl through the roll feeder. So I thought I would share that too, because I don't see that many videos talking about how much of a nightmare it is when you don't get the roll feeder quite right and then your vinyl gets kind of chewed up and spat back out again. So I found a lot of tips on the Silhouette School blog, which is an amazing resource for your Silhouette machine. I also found quite a few on the Silhouette Cutters subreddit. Obviously, Silhouette also have their own help section and an FAQ library as well, so that's a good place to check if you're struggling. And then as a last resort, you can also contact Silhouette to ask them about any issues you're having as well. And I say as a last resort because I did that when I was having issues, and it took them 4 days to respond, and they got back with stuff that wasn't that helpful. So I would only ever do that kind of if you can't find the answer anywhere else. So here are just a few things that I think might be useful, and you might want to check if you're having issues with your Cameo 4 machine. So the first thing is setting up your roll feeder. So when I don't do it properly, this is what happens to mine. It just kind of goes all over the place and then gets stuck in the machine. It's a bit of a nightmare. So obviously the first thing I do is I put it through that little slot in the roll feeder after the roll's already in there, and I make sure I get it as far over on the left as possible while still being within the right hand roller as well. So if you look there, it's kind of covering those two little arrows. So once it's in, then also feed it a little bit more into the machine. I pull up the handle again and then just kind of move it around to make sure it's definitely straight on the left hand side. I also make sure the guillotine on the back is up and not down. And I pull the roll of vinyl way out so that it's not going to get stuck when it's in the feeder. I've also started putting like a heavy roll on the right hand side to kind of keep it pushed over to the left so that that's not getting in the way as well. And then set it to go, and that usually does the trick. So the last issue I was having was to do with the blade. Well, I didn't know it was, but I guessed. So I was setting it cutting, and basically it wasn't cutting anything. So sometimes this is because stuff is stuck in the blade and kind of getting in the way. It's harder with the ratchet blades to kind of see if there's anything in there, but I just kind of dig around with a pin. It's a lot easier with the auto blade, of course, because you can push that up, pull the vinyl out. Wasn't anything in my old ratchet blade, so I bought a new one. This is how it comes with a little gadget thing, I don't know what it's called. And I've been getting the ratchet blades instead of an auto blade now because I just think they're a bit better, and actually they cut a bit better than the auto blade that I had before. So you should have got this with your machine, this kind of black adapter. And you kind of put it halfway down so there's a bit of a gap at the top. It looks a bit weird, but just make sure you line up where the slots are so you don't break it. And then you use this little grey contraption to move the blade along. So I just have it on one because that is what Silhouette Studio tells me is the ideal vinyl setting, and that's all I really cut. But you might need to change it if you change materials, and press it in, but don't do it with one hand like I've done there. Just make sure it's in. So the next thing, I was having a lot of Bluetooth issues where I would set something cutting and it would just kind of pause halfway through and then spit the vinyl back out without finishing cutting, and it would just say, oh, the Bluetooth's been switched off or it's lost connection. So When I first had this issue, I went to Silhouette FAQ section and I kind of worked through all of this stuff, and I just made sure everything was correct. So I checked the firmware, that was all right, and it tells you everything really well step by step here. Also check the software version if you're not sure how to do that. If you go on software for Silhouette Studio, you click on it and it should tell you the latest version for whatever system that you're using. So at the minute it is 4.4.554. When I first did this it was fine, but if you go on your About Silhouette Studio, you can see I'm kind of a little version behind. So I'm just going to download that now while I'm here. So you should have done this already anyway, and it's quite useful to do it just to check every now and again, just to make sure it's up to date, and then you can stop yourself having any issues like this. So as I said last time, it was fine, so I didn't need to do that. Also tested the software connection, and it's still, I think I remember rightly, I went through every step of that and it still wasn't working. So tested the hardware connection, and hopefully at this point, if you're having issues, it will have solved it. But it wasn't until I checked this interfering connections thing that I managed to solve mine. And you just have to go to the folder as it says on here and you delete your preferences. It does mean you end up kind of with all your saved things gone from Silhouette Studio, which is a bit of a pain. But obviously it's easier to set them all up than to keep having issues with your machine. And then there's an assessing hardware failure bit as well if that doesn't work. So I did that the first time it worked, the second time it didn't work. So I was reading into kind of where the Bluetooth was located in the machine, and I read someone in Reddit saying that it's just this little dongle thing that's in the back underneath of the machine, and it's just this little tiny thing. It's quite hard to get out, so do be careful. And then I also read on Reddit that they had just replaced it with this one off Amazon. I think it was like £6, it wasn't a lot, which has a better, stronger Bluetooth connection. I decided not to use that one for now, so I'm just putting the original back in because actually my Bluetooth has decided to start working. As I was putting it back in, this happened, it fell apart. So do be really careful with it. It's quite flimsy, but it does go back together really easily. But as I said, I'm going to keep that in, and you might want to do that too. I'm still within warranty, so I didn't want to mess with anything. But I thought it was good to know in case you have lots of issues that just cannot be solved in any other way. It might be worth trying. So it might also be worth updating your MacBook. I did that one time and that also helped with the issues I was having. But if you're still struggling, then there's so many other resources you can look at. As I mentioned, Silhouette have lots of help. Silhouette School also have this membership site. You can pay monthly, I think, and that gives you loads of help and probably stop you looking everywhere else on the internet. And then Design Bundles have Silhouette tutorials, and obviously there are loads of YouTube videos and loads of stuff out there that can hopefully help you, as well as this video. So I hope you found that helpful. Let me know if you have any other really good troubleshooting tips for your Cameo 4 machine, or if you've got any questions, just drop them in the comments. And please don't forget to like, follow and subscribe for more videos like this in future.